Welcome to Midnight Horrors, where you will immerse yourself in horror, and haunting stories. If you are passionate about the horror genre and always looking for new experiences, this is the channel for you. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos from Midnight Horrors. Join us to explore the most mysterious and scary things late at night. Now we will start today's story. The calmness of the night was a stark contrast to the storm brewing within my home. As a cybersecurity major, I prided myself on my understanding of the digital world, a realm I believed I had mastered. But nothing in my studies had prepared me for the terror that was to unfold. It began with an innocuous enough event, a flicker of movement, barely perceptible. I dismissed it as a trick of the light or a figment of my overworked imagination. "You're seeing things, Megan, time for a break." But the illusion of safety was shattered the moment I heard it, the unmistakable sound of a camera shutter clicking from somewhere within the depths of my house. My heart stopped, my blood ran cold, and the chilling realization hit me. I was not alone. Frantically, I scanned my surroundings, every shadow, every corner, but found nothing. The silence that followed was oppressive, suffocating. Then my phone buzzed. A message, anonymous, with nothing but a link, sat in notifications. I clicked it and my blood turned to ice. It linked to a live stream revealing a view of my own living room, from an angle I hadn't placed a camera. And there he was, a figure cloaked in darkness, his face obscured, but his intentions clear, standing in my bedroom upstairs. "Welcome to your nightmare, Megan." His voice was a twisted melody, a harbinger of the horrors to come. I stared, frozen, as he began to move through my room with a disturbing familiarity, each step a declaration of his control. I grabbed onto a kitchen knife, but he had seen it on the live stream, just like I could witness my own house from the view of 18 cameras. Who was he? How did he get inside? How did he place those cameras? And what was he planning? When I looked back at the phone, he had disappeared from my room, which meant that he could be anywhere in my house. The game had begun, his rules, his playground. My home had become a hunting ground. He taunted me, leaving me to discover twisted tokens of his presence. A bloodied knife here, a lock of hair there. His actions were calculated, designed not just to scare but to mentally unravel me. "You can't hide, Megan, I'm everywhere. You're playing by my rules now." "Who are you? Why are you doing this? Leave my house right now or I will call the police." "You have a phone in your palms, Megan. Place the call, but remember, if you close your phone or switch to any other app, your phone will explode in your hand." His words echoed in my mind. Psychological warfare meant to break me. But amidst the terror, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I couldn't outmuscle him, but maybe, just maybe, I could outsmart him. I remembered my studies, my projects on cybersecurity and hacking. If I could get to my equipment, if I could just access the network. "What do you want from me?" I cried, or at least fake cried. I had to appear as weak as possible to him to come up with my contingency plan. I made my way to the basement, weeping. It housed my makeshift lab filled with servers and monitors. It was a fortress of technology, and within its walls I found my courage. If I could get to the server room, I could make contact with authorities outside. As I finally entered the server room, locking the door behind me, I faced the screens, my fingers poised above the keyboard. This was it, the battlefield I knew where I held the advantage. I went to work straight away, weaving my counterattack, a silent plea for help embedded within the code. The night was far from over, but for the first time since the nightmare began, I dared to hope. The stage was set, the players positioned. The game, however, was about to change. As I sat in the dimly lit server room, my hands moved with a purpose, driven by fear and an unwavering resolve to end this nightmare. The psycho believed he was the puppeteer, but in the digital world, I was in my element. My plan was simple, yet risky. Hack into the cameras he'd so confidently installed and send out a distress signal. The task was daunting. My fingers danced across the keyboard, commands flowing with an urgency fueled by adrenaline. I tapped into the live stream, injecting a hidden message into the metadata. a digital SOS aimed at anyone savvy enough to notice. Time was a luxury I didn't have. With each passing moment, his patience would wear thin, and he'd come looking for me. I had to act fast. Then I heard it. The sound of footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate. He was near. "You can't hide in there forever, Megan. Come out and play." His taunts echoed through the door, each word a twisted invitation to a dance of death. But I couldn't afford to be distracted. I needed to stay focused. With a few more keystrokes, I gained access to the network of cameras. I could see him now, moving through the house, searching, hunting. His movements were methodical, like a predator toying with its prey. I had to be careful, precise. One wrong move and it could all be over. I initiated a script to loop the camera footage, creating a delay that would give me precious minutes. It was a gamble, but it was my only shot. As the script ran, I sent a ping to a secure server, a digital cry for help. If anyone out there was listening, they would know something was wrong. The footsteps stopped. Silence. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a countdown to the moment he would breach my sanctuary. I held my breath, my eyes flickering between the screen and the door. The script was almost complete. Just a few more seconds. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house. He was growing impatient. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. The script finished running and I quickly set up a live feed from my phone to the authorities, embedding the location data. I just had to hold on a little longer. Then the door to the server room rattled. He was here. "Megan, come out now, and maybe I'll make it quick." His voice was a sinister whisper, a promise of the horrors to come. But I wasn't ready to give up. I grabbed a nearby chair and propped it against the door, a flimsy barrier but better than nothing. My eyes darted to the screen, the live feed showing him outside the door, trying to break in. In a moment of clarity, I remembered an old trick, an emergency script that could overload the power grid of the house, plunging it into darkness. It was risky, but it might buy me the time I needed. I executed the script, and within moments the lights flickered and went out. The house was plunged into darkness, the only illumination coming from the faint glow of my monitors. I heard him curse, stumbling in the dark. It was my chance. I grabbed my phone, the only source of light, and made my way to the hidden escape hatch in the floor of the server room. With trembling hands, I pried it open and slipped inside, closing it just as the door to the server room burst open. I crawled through the narrow tunnel, my breathing shallow, each movement a struggle. The tunnel led to the backyard, a hidden exit I had installed as a precaution. As I emerged into the night air, I saw the flashing lights of police cars approaching. My message had gotten through. Relief washed over me, but I knew it wasn't over yet. I ran towards the officers, waving my phone to get their attention. They quickly surrounded me, weapons drawn, ready to confront the intruder. I directed them to the house, explaining the situation as best I could. Minutes felt like hours as I waited, watching the officers enter the house. The silence was deafening, each second stretching into an eternity. Then a commotion, shouts, the sound of a struggle. I held my breath, praying that it would end soon. Finally they emerged, dragging the intruder in handcuffs. His face was twisted in rage, but his eyes met mine with a chilling calmness. "This isn't over, Megan," he hissed. "I'll be back." But for now it was over. The nightmare had ended, and I was safe. The officers escorted me to a waiting ambulance where paramedics checked me over. As I sat there, wrapped in a blanket, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. My home, my sanctuary, had been violated. But I had survived, and I had fought back. In the days that followed, the police pieced together the intruder's identity and his twisted motives. He was a skilled hacker, obsessed with control and domination. His plan had been meticulous, but he hadn't counted on my determination and knowledge of the digital world. The experience had changed me. I was no longer the same person who had entered that night. I was stronger, more resilient, and I had learned that sometimes the greatest battles are fought not in the physical world, but in the digital one. As I stood in the wreckage of my home, I made a vow to continue my studies, to become even more skilled, and to ensure that no one else would ever have to face what I had. The calmness of the night had been shattered, but from the darkness, a new light had emerged, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The weeks following the incident were a blur of police interviews, media attention, and attempts to rebuild my life. The intruder, identified as a notorious hacker known only by the alias Shadow, had been targeting individuals in the cybersecurity field, seeing them as worthy adversaries in his twisted game. For him, it was a challenge, a hunt. For me, it was a nightmare that I was determined never to relive. I moved to a more secure location, a small apartment with state-of-the-art security systems and a direct line to a private security firm. It wasn't just about feeling safe, it was about regaining control over my life. But the scars of that night ran deep, both physically and mentally. I found it hard to sleep, every creak and groan of the building sending me into a state of heightened alertness. My friends and family were supportive, but they couldn't fully understand the constant paranoia that had become my new normal. I threw myself into my studies and work, using the digital world as both a refuge and a weapon. I upgraded my skills, learning everything I could about offensive and defensive cybersecurity measures. If Shadow ever came back, I would be ready. One evening, as I was working on a new encryption algorithm, I received an email from an unknown sender. My heart raced as I opened it, half expecting another taunt from Shadow. Instead, it was an invitation, a chance to join a secretive group of elite cybersecurity experts who had taken an interest in my ordeal. The group, known as the Guardians, operated in the shadows of the digital world, protecting individuals and organizations from threats like Shadow. They had been watching my progress and believed I had the potential to be a valuable asset. It was an opportunity I couldn't refuse. I wanted to fight back, not just for myself but for others who might become targets. Joining the Guardians was like entering a whole new world. The members were highly skilled, each with their own specialties and stories of battles fought in the digital realm. We worked together on covert operations, tracking down cyber criminals, and securing vulnerable systems. It was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure, but it gave me a sense of purpose. Months passed, and my skills grew sharper. I became more confident, more assertive. The fear that had once gripped me began to fade, replaced by a fierce determination. I was no longer a victim. I was a warrior in the digital war. Then one day, we received intel that Shadow had resurfaced. He was planning something big, targeting a major financial institution with a sophisticated ransomware attack. The Guardians mobilized, pooling our resources and knowledge to thwart his plan. This was my chance to face him, to end this once and for all. The operation was intense. We tracked Shadow's digital footprint, following him through the labyrinth of the dark web. It was a game of cat and mouse, each move countered with precision. As we closed in, the tension was palpable. This was it, the final showdown. We found him in a remote location, his setup hidden behind layers of encryption and firewalls. But we were ready. Using a combination of social engineering and advanced hacking techniques, we breached his defenses, cornering him in his own digital lair. "Megan," his voice came through the speakers, calm and taunting as ever. "I knew you'd come. Let's see if you've learned anything." But this time I wasn't alone. The Guardians and I worked in unison, launching a coordinated attack that overwhelmed his systems. Shadow fought back, but we were relentless. One by one, his defenses crumbled, and finally we had him. The authorities were alerted, and Shadow was apprehended in the real world. The relief was overwhelming, but it was also bittersweet. The battle had taken its toll, but it had also forged me into someone stronger, someone who could stand up against the darkness. As I looked at the screen, the face of my tormentor finally revealed. I felt a sense of closure. The nightmare was over, but the fight for a safer digital world would continue, and I would be there, ready to protect and defend, turning my fear into strength. The calmness of the night had returned, but this time, I was ready for whatever shadows might come. The Guardians celebrated the victory, but we knew that this was just one battle in an ongoing war. Cyber threats were evolving, and so too must we. I took a brief moment to breathe and reflect, but my mind was already racing with plans for the future. The takedown of Shadow had made headlines, and I found myself in the spotlight once again. This time, however, I was prepared. I used the media attention to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity, urging individuals and organizations to take proactive measures to protect themselves. I gave interviews, wrote articles, and even started a podcast dedicated to educating the public on digital safety. But amidst the chaos, I never lost sight of my personal mission. The Guardians had become more than just a group. They were my family, my allies in the fight against the unseen threats lurking in the digital shadows. Together, we continued our work, tracking down cybercriminals and fortifying vulnerable systems. One night, while sifting through a new batch of encrypted messages, I stumbled upon something intriguing. It was a series of codes and symbols, unlike anything I had seen before. My curiosity piqued. I began to decipher it, piecing together the puzzle. What I uncovered was a fragment of a larger network, an underground collective of hackers, far more organized and dangerous than we had previously imagined. I brought my findings to the Guardians, and we realized the gravity of the situation. This collective, known as the Black Web, was responsible for a series of high-profile cyber attacks across the globe. They operated with military precision, their motives shrouded in secrecy. Taking them down would be our most challenging mission yet. We began our investigation, each member of the Guardians contributing their unique expertise. It was a race against time, as the Black Web's next target could be anyone, anywhere. We infiltrated their network, gathering intel and mapping out their operations. The deeper we delved, the more we uncovered, a web of conspiracies, blackmail, and cyber warfare. Our breakthrough came when we identified a key player within the Black Web, a hacker known only as Nexus. Nexus was a ghost, leaving no trace behind, but we managed to track a series of transactions that led us to a remote location. With the authorities on standby, we prepared for a coordinated strike. The operation was meticulously planned. We knew that any mistake could tip off Nexus and jeopardize the mission. As we moved in, the tension was palpable. Our goal was to capture Nexus and dismantle the Black Web from the inside. The raid was swift and precise. Nexus was taken into custody, and we seized a treasure trove of data, evidence that would expose the Black Web's operations and bring its members to justice. It was a significant victory, but the war was far from over. In the aftermath, I reflected on how far I had come. From a terrified victim to a key player in the fight against cybercrime, my journey had been one of growth, resilience, and determination. I had found my purpose, and I was more committed than ever to defending the digital world. The Guardians and I continued our work, always vigilant, always ready. We knew that the threats would keep evolving, but so would we. The calmness of the night was no longer a sign of vulnerability, but a testament to our preparedness and strength. As I sat at my desk, the glow of my monitors casting a soft light, I felt a sense of peace. The digital frontier was vast and ever-changing, but I was no longer afraid. I was a guardian, a protector, and I was ready for whatever came next. The digital world was a labyrinth of unseen dangers, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something even more significant was on the horizon. This anxiety gnawed at me, a constant reminder that the battle was never truly over. Late one night, as I was combing through a new batch of encrypted messages, I noticed something unusual. A series of anomalous data packets were pinging servers around the globe. At first glance, they seemed like random noise, but the frequency and pattern suggested otherwise. My pulse quickened as I began to decrypt the data, revealing a chilling message. Phase 2 initiated. I immediately alerted the Guardians. We convened an emergency meeting, analyzing the packets and their origins. It became clear that the Black Web had a contingency plan in place, something we had only scratched the surface of. This new phase was more insidious, involving sleeper agents embedded within major corporations and government agencies. Their goal was not just financial gain, but total destabilization of critical infrastructure. We worked around the clock, tracing the data packets to various nodes across the world. Each node led us to a different piece of the puzzle, but the full picture was still elusive. The stress was palpable, and the stakes had never been higher. We were racing against an invisible clock, and one wrong move could spell disaster. In the midst of this chaos, we received an unexpected tip from an anonymous source. The message was cryptic, but included coordinates to a location that supposedly held crucial information about Phase 2. It was a risky lead, but we had no other choice. I volunteered to investigate, accompanied by a small team of trusted guardians. The coordinates led us to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a city. The atmosphere was tense as we approached, the silence broken only by the distant hum of city life. We moved cautiously, our senses heightened by the knowledge that this could be a trap. Inside the warehouse, we found a makeshift server room filled with outdated but functional equipment. As we sifted through the data, a sudden realization hit me. The warehouse was a decoy, a distraction to keep us occupied while the Black Web executed their real plan. My heart sank as I relayed this to the team. We needed to act fast. Back at our headquarters, the Guardians were scrambling to piece together the true target of Phase 2. The data we retrieved from the warehouse revealed a list of critical infrastructure points, each one a potential target. It was a digital chess game, and we were struggling to predict the enemy's next move. Just as we were narrowing down the possibilities, an alert flashed across our screens. A major power grid in a metropolitan area had been breached, causing widespread blackouts and chaos. This was just the beginning. We had to move quickly to prevent further attacks. We split our resources, some of us working to restore the compromised grid while others focused on securing other potential targets. The pressure was immense, and the sense of urgency was unlike anything we had experienced before. Every second counted. In the middle of the crisis, an unexpected message came through our secure channel. It was from Shadow. Despite being in custody, he had somehow managed to send a taunting message. "You think you've won. This is only the beginning." The revelation was staggering. Shadow had orchestrated this from the start, and his capture had been part of a larger strategy. The real mastermind was still out there, pulling the strings. The realization sent a chill down my spine. We were dealing with an adversary far more cunning and dangerous than we had imagined. With renewed determination, we doubled our efforts. We worked through the night, coordinating with international agencies and cybersecurity experts to contain the damage and thwart further attacks. It was an uphill battle, but slowly the calm after the storm was short-lived. In the weeks that followed, we experienced a series of relentless cyber attacks that tested our limits. Each attack was a masterstroke of precision, targeting critical infrastructures around the world. It was clear that the Black Web, under the real mastermind's direction, was escalating their efforts. Our first hint of their next move came through an intercepted communication. It was heavily encrypted, but the fragments we could decipher hinted at a coordinated attack on global financial systems. The implications were staggering. If successful, it could plunge the world into economic chaos. We mobilized quickly, coordinating with international cybersecurity agencies and financial institutions. The Guardians worked tirelessly, setting up advanced defenses and monitoring for any signs of breach. The tension was palpable, and the stakes had never been higher. The attack began on a Friday afternoon, a time chosen for maximum impact. Financial markets were closing for the weekend, and any disruption would have a cascading effect. The first sign was a series of anomalies in transaction logs across multiple banks. What started as minor discrepancies quickly snowballed into a full-scale assault. The attackers used sophisticated malware to infiltrate systems, erasing transaction histories, altering balances, and siphoning off funds. Panic ensued as investors and governments scrambled to respond. The Guardians were at the heart of the defense, working round the clock to contain the breach and mitigate the damage. I was in the middle of coordinating our response when I received an urgent message from a colleague. A major stock exchange was experiencing a complete systems failure, and trading had been halted. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust in the entire financial system. We dispatched a team to the affected exchange, working alongside their IT department to restore operations. The malware was unlike anything we had seen before. Adaptive, self-replicating, and designed to exploit even the smallest vulnerabilities. It was a digital hydra, and every time we cut off one head, two more seemed to take its place. During the chaos, we received a tip from an unexpected source. Nexus. Now in custody and facing severe charges, Nexus had agreed to cooperate in exchange for leniency. He provided us with crucial information about the Black Web's operations, including the location of their primary command center. It was a risky lead, but we had no choice but to act on it. The Guardians launched a coordinated strike on the command center, a nondescript building in a remote location. The operation was swift and decisive, and we managed to apprehend several key figures within the Black Web. Among them was the true mastermind, a shadowy figure known only as the Architect. The Architect was a genius, a former cybersecurity expert who had turned rogue after becoming disillusioned with the system. His goal was to dismantle the existing order and create a new world where power was decentralized and controlled by those with the technical prowess to wield it. His capture was a significant victory, but the battle was far from over. With the architect in custody, we gained access to a treasure trove of data. It detailed not only their past operations but also plans for future attacks. We worked tirelessly to decipher this information, preemptively securing targets and neutralizing threats. The scale of the Black Web's operations was staggering, and it took all our resources to stay ahead. As we dismantled their network, we uncovered plots that spanned continents, attacks on power grids, water supplies, and even healthcare systems. Each discovery was a race against time, and the pressure was immense. But with every success, our confidence grew. We were making a difference, pushing back against the darkness. One particularly harrowing night, we received intelligence about an imminent attack on a major hospital's network. The malware was designed to disrupt medical equipment, endangering lives. We had mere hours to act. The Guardians and I worked frantically, coordinating with the hospital's IT staff to isolate and neutralize the threat. It was a close call, but we managed to prevent the attack just in time. The relief was overwhelming, but the reality was sobering. The digital world was a battlefield, and the cost of failure was measured in lives. The Guardians and I knew that we had to remain vigilant, constantly evolving our tactics to stay ahead of our adversaries. As the immediate threats subsided, I took a moment to reflect on the journey. From a terrified victim to a key player in a global fight, I had found my purpose. The Guardians and I were more than just defenders. We were a beacon of hope in an increasingly uncertain world. The calmness of the night had returned, but it was a fragile peace. The shadows still loomed, but we were ready. Together, we would continue to protect the digital realm, turning our fear and anxiety into strength and resilience. The fight was far from over, but we were prepared for whatever came next. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. Your support is a tremendous motivation for me to continue creating high-quality and engaging content. If you found this video helpful, please like and share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos from me. Thank you very much and see you in the next videos. Have a great day.